Welcome to Ride On. I'm here with Dani Horwitz, the CEO of Vmax Mobility. Dani, how you doing?
Doing great, James. How are you?
I'm doing great as well. Thanks for joining. We're 1 week out from Micromobility America. We will have Vmax and some amazing news about Vmax on the stage. And for people that want to, of course, ride all their vehicles, they'll be able to do that next week at Micromobility America. But Dani, I want to talk to you today as of course, the CEO. We want to hear more about Vmax. What's the story behind the company, and how'd you go about starting it, and sort of your journey to get here?
I just want to start and say, as a past participant at Micromobility Amsterdam, I was there 2 years in a row. We're really, really excited to attend Micromobility in America. And we will be there in full force with our entire line of scooters on display. And we will be there telling our story. My personal story, how I got to Vmax, started, I would say, 5, 6 years ago. I was working at a marketing agency, and we just started really focusing on the world of micromobility, the PEV world, personal electric vehicles. We were doing a lot with electric skateboards. We're working with companies from Meepo Board in China to Metro Board in the USA, companies in Europe, doing a lot of marketing advertising for e-skate companies. We were working with e-scooter companies, with microcar companies, and really that just kind of became our focus, and our niche was micromobility marketing. Um, at that point, we really started started networking and connecting in the industry. We met Danny Datweiler, who's the founder of Vmax Global, a company that was founded in 2015, and we had a conversation about taking Vmax from its headquarters and its home roots in Switzerland and Germany and Europe, bringing it across the Atlantic to the USA. We started talking with him earlier this year in January, and things just really came together. We opened the company just a few months ago.
Amazing. So, Dani, you got quite an interesting background in terms of what you've been up to as an entrepreneur. Sounds like born and raised in Cleveland, spent a lot of time in Israel. Now you found a partner in Switzerland, of course, with Vmax Global, which is a great backstory. There's a feature in Zag Daily on the story of Vmax Global starting as a toy manufacturer, a long history in toy manufacturing, then seeing the rise of hoverboards and scooters coming out of China in the early 2010s, and then of course starting to make scooters. You're getting involved with them, and now, which again is we haven't seen a ton of this, but it's really cool to see a Swiss company now embarking on the U.S. market with your line of scooters. So let's talk about that really quickly. What was that like? I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there looking to bring their companies from Europe to the U.S. What was that process like, and how far along are you on that journey?
Sure, 100%. So the truth is, my partner at their marketing agency, my partner in crime, we've been working together for 8 years. Yoav Dreyfus, who is also he's the COO and co-founder as well at Vmax Mobility in the US. He's a Swiss native. We've been working together. We work for many Swiss companies, so working for Swiss companies is already in my DNA. And when we met Vmax, it was almost it was almost like a perfect connection there. I think there's definitely a difference in mentality when it comes to Swiss companies versus U.S. companies versus companies in other parts of the world. Being a Swiss company, we put a major emphasis on quality of product, quality of production. Um, Vmax, for example, is manufactured in its own ISO certified factory. We're not, using off the shelf components. We're not ordering from other suppliers. Everything is meticulously sourced and handcrafted in our own factory. Everything is UL certified. Even when you talk about our products, again, being Swiss, we're not necessarily looking to have a scooter with the most range or a scooter with the fastest mile per hour. We're looking to create a all around extremely high quality product made from high quality components is going to last you for years. Really, everything that Swiss is known for, we're putting that into our scooter.
Amazing. Okay, and yeah, I think that's needed here in the U.S. I think scooters continue to gain popularity. It's a very funny segment of the audience that we see. people are always surprised when I tell them how many scooters are sold in the U.S. and sort of the overall popularity of them. I think it's still a very
Yeah,
under.
what are the updated numbers?
Oh, I mean the last numbers that I had were in the just under a million. I think in the U.S. we're shipping on an
Wow.
annual basis. What have you heard? Actually, I'd be curious what you've seen.
Yeah, that sounds about right from the research that we've done. But again, from what we've seen, there's a mass influx of lower end, lower cost scooters that are hitting the market. Things that you're going to be replacing. Either you'll be replacing the entire scooter, or you'll be replacing part by part. Very quickly after purchasing it. Even some of these scooters with these insane top speeds, insane miles. It may go really fast, but other elements are just going to be cheap and frankly not safe. So again, I'll even tell you something. I was shocked when I learned this, but VMAX has a company policy that they will limit the speed of their scooters at a certain limit for safety reasons. It's just you're not, most people don't need to go past certain speeds, and we just won't do it.
Let's talk about that. So, I mean, well, kudos on the UL certification. Clearly, we've a lot of conversations around battery fires, and scooters are in there in terms of micromobility modes that are catching fire, in apartment buildings and other places. So, the UL certification I commend you on, and something that I think is really important as we try to combat fires. On the speeds, I just was talking to Scott from Land. They're it's a bike, it's not a scooter, so it's a different mode. But that bike can go anywhere from four different speeds, from 22 miles per hour all the way up to 70 miles per hour plus. How do you feel about speeds on a scooter, and where do you feel comfortable allowing people to range on the scooter? And then how do you feel about modifications where clearly consumers are looking to make modifications to the speeds they can go on scooters?
Right. Yes, and I definitely think that's important. I think there's a market for that. We do offer scooters which are super fast, super powerful. We have I would call them our non-street legal models, which would be the R40 and the R55, which we're going to be releasing sooner. But the bread and butter of what we offer, let's just take the VX2 Pro for example. So you're going to have a top speed of 19 miles an hour. I think for the vast majority of riders, that is going to be more than sufficient. Whether you're
Yep.
riding to work, whether you're riding, to the corner store, I don't know if you're going to be riding faster than that. I don't.
Sure. And in terms of so thinking of the VX2 model, who do you ultimately think is your segment? Like, who's your buyer of that vehicle, and what are they doing with that vehicle?
Sure. Great question. So we have it starts at a $999 price point. Um, and we offer three battery levels. And obviously, with each battery, you get increased range. It's a scooter that can hold up to a rider up to 330 pounds. It does really well at inclines. It is excellent if you live in a hilly area. It's something that you're going to buy and it's going to stay with you for years, hundreds of miles. You'll be able to ride on the scooter without having to worry about replacing it. I really think that the audience it may sound general, but anyone looking for a really high quality, reliable scooter. Not someone out there who's a thrill seeker looking to hit top speeds and so on, but someone who's looking for a high quality scooter that's going to be reliable, whether they're commuting to work, whether they're riding to the corner store, to the mall. That is really who we're looking for.
Okay, and who do you think currently, is your background in marketing and having an agency, who do you think currently owns that market? How much do you want to eat into the share of the people that currently own that market versus how much are you trying to go more greenfield and just try to convert the non-user to user?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just think. I think there's a lot of scooters out there. There's a lot of, there are definitely competitors. I would say that the market probably goes beyond just scooter riders. You mentioned e-bikes. I think there's plenty of people who are riding e-bikes today who may be looking for, a little smaller footprint even, and may want to pick up a scooter, knowing that it's going to bring them the reliability that they may be getting from an e-bike.
And why do you? How about why don't why don't more people ride scooters? Like, again, where the numbers are good, people are always surprised by that. It still does kind of hit this, hyper niche audience in the grander scheme of people that could really use potentially a solution like a scooter. What do you think your biggest barriers to entry are? Like, why today, if you were to poll people, like, why do you think they don't ride scooters?
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting question. I think a lot of, when if someone were just to talk about e-scooters, so I think all the hype is really with the shared scooters, right? I think they take a lot of the headlines. And if you're just Googling electric scooters, so some of the big name in the shared market, those are definitely taking a lot of the headlines. Um, and when it comes to the private ownership market, I think I would definitely say there's a couple elements in play. One, there's been a lot of negative news, which you alluded to with battery fires. I think that definitely deters a lot of people. I think us coming in saying our scooters are UL certified, they're manufactured in an ISO certified plant. I think that will give people the feeling that they can trust our product. So I think that's one concern, one way we're answering. I think another one is probably safety. Um, my conversations with people, you say, "Hey, what about electric scooter?" They say, "Oh, I would never do that. I'm too scared to ride that." So I think when we can present them a scooter which is made from high quality parts, a high quality product with built-in safety features, with blinkers on the handle, with many other elements to increase stability and so on. I think that's another answer right there. So people, I think, have concerns about safety. We have safety features built in. People have concerns about, let's just say, issues with the battery. We have certification. So we're basically trying to take people's concerns and reply to them one by one.
Got you. And so let's just, there's a couple interesting things there. So Praveen Joel Jones, who on Twitter is at Praveen Joel, recently came out with a report that was actually from Dot, which is a shared scooter company. And they reported, they have both e-bikes and e-scooters in the market. They reported that e-scooters actually had a much lower crash rate than e-bikes did. There was basically, I'm going to get this data wrong from the survey, but basically e-bikes were involved in 2 times the collisions of scooters where an injury was involved and reported. Clearly, there's maybe some things that happened that don't get reported. But I found that to be a fascinating study. One I hadn't seen a ton of. I'm curious if you've ever seen these studies, because I agree with you that one of the biggest barriers I hear is like, well, I don't feel safe on a scooter. But I don't often hear that on a bike. But this report is saying that basically scooters are safer than the bikes, which again, is a good proxy because they have both of these things in market. That's a pretty good sample size that they have. Have you seen any reports like this? And do you think that the fear of scooters is overblown and, people just need to kind of ride them and in fact, they're safer than bikes, potentially? Just curious, all your thoughts there.
Yes. So I have told countless people over the past few weeks, when discussing scooters, I said, when discussing particularly Vmax, I said, ride it and you'll feel the difference. That's really been almost a mantra within our company right now. Ride it and you'll feel the difference, which is one of the main reasons why we do want to be at Micromobility America with our scooters on display. We're encouraging as many people to attend and ride them and feel the Vmax difference as possible. To answer your question, I think bikes, maybe there's almost this ingrained familiarity from childhood with bikes. People kind of gravitate to a bike. It's just something a little more familiar. People are more comfortable with it. But possibly a lot of these bikes, have almost turned into motorcycles, and people could really, go at almost extreme speeds without even realizing it.
Yeah, I don't think the shared ones can, but clearly 20 miles per hour. I think on most of the shareds are regulated too on the e-bike side, governed as a class 1. But yeah, I think this is something that we should look at as someone that makes scooters. I think this is a really fascinating study and one that should be followed up on, because I agree with you, Dani. Like the idea, like ride it and you'll feel it, is very real. I think first gen scooters were junky and a lot of them just were not up to what we need. Now you ride scooters, and I'm excited to ride a Vmax. I have not ridden one before, I should disclose, but I'm excited to ride one. But I have ridden other brands, and they're incredible, right? And they're not what you would expect if you rode a first gen scooter, or even a little micro scooter that your kids might ride. Like, it's a much different feeling and a much safer. I call it like an electric carpet, almost, the way you hover.
Yeah, and, by the way, James, I actually think it's an interesting point, which relates to a question you asked earlier about why people aren't riding scooters. I think when a lot of the shared scooters came out, and you're right, they were very low quality products, which weren't so fun or comfortable to ride. Many people tried them, and maybe they were turned off. People had an early on experience with some of these other Birds or Limes or some of these other shared scooters, and maybe they were turned off or did not feel comfortable, never came back at that. So I think that could have been.
What's your just I'm just curious. Like, it appears a lot of these companies are now going bankrupt, right? Like, basically, I think Bird is basically in the public markets. Bird, Hellbiz, like, the market is effectively saying, like, these companies are worth more dead than alive, right? Like, they're worth less than their cash, and everyone's doing pretty bad. Just to look back, and clearly you've been in the industry the entire time, like, do you think the shared scooter space was a net negative or a net positive for scooters overall?
Um, I think they created a lot of noise. I think overall they did move the industry forward. I
Mm-hmm.
think they, um, but um, yeah, it's a good question. It's definitely a good question. I would say it's overall been a positive, but I do think the future is most certainly in private ownership, without a
Yeah.
doubt. So.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think for anyone listening, I think there's a real challenge if you haven't ridden a Vmax or another scooter and you have these preconceived notions.
And by the way, I
It's
mean, every time I still see brands getting into let's just even say the subscription model, the monthly payments. I don't know, like I don't see how the numbers work out. I've given it a
spicy
lot of
take here,
thought.
Danny. Okay.
So, but
Subscription.
hey, I mean, people are doing it, and it'll
Is this
there's.
is it a ZERP era thing though? Is it just from zero interest rates and it doesn't actually work? It doesn't pencil out, and anyone that's doing it's going to ultimately fail.
Yeah, there was just I mentioned electric skateboards. I've got a background in electric, several electric skateboard companies, and one of the premium, a Canadian brand, Croy, they just went bankrupt a week ago. I mean, it's huge news in the industry, and if you read their note, it was interest rates. That was the kind of the number one point right there in their note to customers.
Fascinating. Well, it's amazing. We run ridereview.com as well, and, like, it's amazing. It's amazing the time we're living through, where, of course, you hear about the bankruptcies, they make headlines. You hear about the failure in shared scooters, but if I look at our search data, um, scooters are more popular than ever, like, way more popular, right? And so you're having this, as an industry, we're just in that funny place where so many companies are going bankrupt. There's so many challenges. So many business models need to change as we move out of a zero interest rate environment. At the same time, globally, if you like North Star it, the growth rate of scooters, the growth rate of electric bikes, they're big, and it's getting and the growth rates are sustaining even post COVID. And so it's just so funny. It's a tale of two cities, right? It's a tale of two worlds. And so I think that's what you.
I think another element to kind of add into the whole mix here is really the marketing side, which I also have a background in. I just read a article maybe 2 to 3 weeks ago, about Google Ads. Google quietly, without telling anyone, raised their cost per clicks by around 10%. So your marketing budgets have increased dramatically, but your return on ad spend it's not where it used to be. So that's also another, your cost per clicks, your cost per reach, all of that is almost as high as I've ever seen it. And especially now getting into as we get closer to Black Friday. But not just Black Friday. Even this past summer, we were seeing cost per click rates that were as high as I've ever seen it, which is hurting the bottom line of companies.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so that's another really good point. And again, it's a trend we've been seeing on the move away from DTC a little bit as the panacea. So clearly, Danny, you have a background in direct response advertising marketing with your firm. I'm sure you've lived through a lot of these brands going DTC only. As you come to the US, as of course you've launched Vmax, what's your strategy for DTC, where clearly you're strong, and I assume that feels like your home turf, versus setting up both servicing and selling in more traditional retail channels, which we've seen a lot of success with more recently.
Yeah, definitely. So as we set up shop here in the US, I think it's worth mentioning we have a local warehouse in Los Angeles. That's where we'll be storing and shipping all of our scooters with our own logistics team. We're now shipping 3 to 5 days at your doorstep to most locations in the US. And yeah, our initial mindset is really focused direct to consumer. That's the DNA of our company. We want to connect with riders directly. We want to build a community of riders. So that's really what we're looking to do. So right now, our focus is very much direct to consumer. I do though believe that faster than we anticipate, we will be in discussions and negotiations with retail shops, both big and small. I'll tell you that we are currently, as we set up our US base, we're in discussions with 5 or 6 repair shops across the country, from the West Coast to the East Coast, South, North, for 2 reasons. One, financially, we don't want people or ourselves, if it's under warranty, paying to, ship scooters across, from coast to coast, and also for sustainability reasons. We don't want those scooters being shipped from one coast to the other. And as we speak to these repair shops and we show them our scooters and they feel them, they're really impressed. We're getting some really, really good feedback, and I believe very soon we'll also be having our scooters in stock at retail stores as well.
Great. And from a repair shop perspective, I'm just curious, what's the makeup of that repair shop? What's it repairing when it's not repairing VMAX scooters?
Uh, yeah, so I mean, we're working with repair shops at this point that are not exclusively working with VMAX, but they're repairing other brands out there, and they're also selling
Other scooter
scooters.
brands, other bikes,
Yeah,
other.
scooters, e-bikes. That's what most of them are doing. Scooters, e-bikes, and we're looking for reputable locations, and just want we one of the cornerstones of our business is service, and we want to really give our customers not only the best pre-sale service, not only the best product, but the best after sales service, and if need be, repair service as well. I'll even go a step further and say we have pretty much an entire container of replacement parts that we have sitting in our warehouse. I hope we won't need to use them, but again, our whole mindset is customer first. And local customer first. We don't want the customer waiting 2 weeks to get a part shipped from Asia or from overseas. We have a warehouse that is stocked with replacement parts, so customers can get them in 1 to 2 days. Repair shops can get them in 1 to 2 days, and people can get back riding their
All right,
scooters.
Danny. So you're also going to be at Micromobility America next week. Let's talk about exactly what's going on there with you guys, and what you'll be debuting in America for the first time.
Yeah, amazing. We are super excited. So I think I mentioned previously, we're going to have our entire line of scooters on display. We're also going to have scooters available for test rides. The 2 scooters that we currently have in stock at our warehouse are the VX2 Pro and the VX5. Those will be on display. We also have a scooter which we're releasing days away from our launch, which is the VX4. The VX4 is a scooter that will probably give you close to 100 miles per charge. It's a monster. And we're going to have that on display as well. And we'll also have our 2 more off-road type models, the R40 and the R55 on display. Those are not yet for sale, but they will be for sale probably closer to that.
Amazing. So currently, if you were to go to your website, what's your website? VMAX.
Vmax.escooter.us.
Gotcha. Okay, so you go there today. You can buy the VX2 and the VX5. Is that correct?
Yeah, currently you can buy the VX2 Pro and the VX5. As of next week, early next week, we should have the VX4 available as well for pre-order, and that should be hitting our warehouse, I would say, by the end of October.
Gotcha. And then if you're at Micromobility, you'll be able to ride all 5 models, with the idea that all 5 models are going to be released at some point this year. The other 3 models will be released at some point this year for purchase.
Yes, yes. And I should also mention we have a 6 model, the VX3, which we'll also have on display as well. So
Awesome.
um, So we have a full lineup of scooters, really trying to touch every segment of the market. Those who are
Mhm.
looking for something a little more basic, those are looking for something a little more premium. We are trying to offer scooters that basically work for everybody.
Great. Okay, well, so for everyone that's going to be at Micromobility America, you're going to have a chance to meet Danny and see him on stage and of course, ride his vehicles. For everyone that can't make it, uh, head over to the website. They can find Danny on LinkedIn as well to connect with him directly. Danny, I want to thank you for coming on the show and look forward to seeing you at Micromobility America.
Amazing. Thank you so much, James.
Right on.